No excuses with Michael, the Leonardo. I'm your host, RJ Roger. Michael, it's John Gotti's birthday. I didn't even know. You called me and told me. I should know that as your host and your as a longtime researcher.
Well, certain moments when people leave an indelible mark on you, and I've been one to remember birthdays. I like people's birthdays. It's one holiday, one event that is specifically to them. So birthdays, uh, like I said, I like to celebrate, even if people are not here anymore, because no other way to honor them is to have a toast. Like I had said in the past, that people, and I go to dinner and I'm with people that lost loved ones, we usually have a toast to the dead once they're not here. So I think it's a sign of respect, a sign of honoring their name and keeping them living. That's how you keep them living. One day we're all going to be in that cemetery, one way or another. So I'd like to think that somewhere somebody will give me a toast one day.
I'll do your toast if I'm still here.
You going before me? I'm going before you. In other words,
No, I said if I'm still here.
only about 30 years between us.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I
So,
definitely would do that for me.
yeah.
What's my birthday?
June
And you're good.
12, June. Hold on. 1955. 12? No, it's not 12.
You're close. It was my ex brother in law's the 12th.
Man.
I'll take you off the hook. I'll take you off the whole time's sake. See,
I do have it written down though.
yeah. See, look, that's the generational things. Is years ago, my generation and past remembered numbers because that's all we did was dial phones. We had to write them down. We physically dial. Today,
Yeah.
even as a watch, a clock, it's not digital. A lot of people can't read their hands. So
Yeah.
you're excused for that. You're excused.
See, I would get an alert on my phone. I would get an alert like 3 days before your birthday.
No, when I get as soon as I wake up in the morning, it's RJ's birthday. All right. So, RJ, it's very nice of you to accommodate me and no excuses and our followers and our Patreon family, especially. They're super loyal people, great aficionados, very intelligent, add a lot to the genre. But you know what? I'm not toasting a mob boss today. I'm toasting my friend. And a guy who left a mark on me in my history. Um, So, when people come into your lives and leave an impact one way or another, could be some people could leave a devastating impact on you, as we know. Let me take these off. I forgot I had them on. As we know, people can leave a negative impact on your life that stays there to your dead. But John, I'm going to celebrate him as my friend in his birthday. Maybe people can't understand that for what I did in my position, but still can't take away what's in your heart and how he treated me. And we all have regrets about certain things in life. I know John had a lot of regrets, you know, but still, he paid his price for what he did. So, aside of all of that, this is not about who did something right or who did something wrong. When you have somebody that you admired and they're in your memory, you always remember the good things in life about somebody. At least I do. I try to take out, extrapolate all the bad stuff. Because we do have bad in relationships, we all have bad things that go on in our lives, or low points, let's say, right? But I try to remember all the good points with everybody. I don't hold grudges. I'm a Sicilian that don't hold a grudge. Very unique, I think. So usually Sicilians have long, hateful memories at times. Uh, but like I said, today is John's birthday. Um, and I remember the man the way he treated me and the respect I had for him and the mark he left on me, like everybody out here. But there's millions of people, maybe tens of millions of people that know that name. So John wanted his name never to be forgotten. And it's not because of me. It's not going to be forgotten. He left a mark on society, good and bad. But nonetheless, he is a part of U.S. history, and America does own a part of that. Whoever wants to acknowledge it, like Bonnie and Clyde, like John Dillinger, Jesse James. We could keep going with the people in bad times, in depression times, in hard times that went out and challenged administrations and policies and et cetera to survive. Right or wrong or indifferent, John stood for what he did. He was the boss. This guy epitomized what he was. He did not run away from who and what he was. Um, Sounds like I'm glorifying a little, but that's the nice side that I remember, John. I like those suits. I like when I showed up with a brand new suit with my name in it inside. I had a custom made suit. I put my name in there. One of the first custom made suits I ever had. He goes, Michael, double breasted. He went from high, low to, hey, John noticed. Next day went out and got double breasted. Showed up with the double breasted when it got made. You know? So those are the little nuances, the little things that I remember a man like him, like other people that come into your life. So, and you know what? If he didn't care about Michael, he wouldn't give me a tip to make me look better in his eyes. You know what I mean? A lot of people will tell you, you got parsley on your teeth. Yeah, you better go clean your teeth. A lot of people say, let him stay with that parsley. Let him look funny. Nobody's going to tell you wash your face and clean it unless they care about you. It's not a critique. It's helpful. John was that guy with me. Even when he gave it to me, he knew how to make it up. And that's what made a man's man in my eyes with him. As with everything else that goes along with the John Gotti legacy. Everybody owes a debt of gratitude that makes 5 cents, 5 minutes of airtime with his name. There'd be nobody in Mob 2 right now. There'd be no Netflix special that was just on. There'd be no people that come on as experts that know John Gotti. Did anybody really know John Gotti? But everybody wanted to know John Gotti. That's on here, that does this, that does earn a living from him. And it's going to keep going on. So everybody owes him a drink, whether you liked him, despised him. If you're earning a living, you wrote a book, you wrote a story, an op-ed about him, or you have a YouTube channel. You owe him a debt of gratitude for why you're here. So all the other stories are nonsense in between. It's all about that legacy that he left. So John wanted to be remembered. I'll toast his memory. Salute, brother. Salute, everybody. Salute, brother John. Now, John was a gin man. He liked gin. Drank vodka. We had a little something about one day. Did my father, from others, my father, he was having a debate. Did my father drink gin or vodka martinis? I said, John, he drank vodka martinis. And when we left, he was mad. What do you mean he drank gin? But when I was out with him, he drank vodka most of the time, yeah. But John liked gin. Did a little cognac. So, salute. And Ajay, I got to thank you also for pushing me to put this out here. Some of these stories about John that, it comes from his family. Family's love really falls flat sometimes. I'm not trying to steal their thunder by far. But when it comes from a biased position, sometimes it's, of course you got to love your father, talk proudly about your father or your cousin or your brother or somebody close to, but it doesn't come off well. We had the others that played off of John's name in a bad way, painted him as this evil guy and all the things he did wrong, pointing that out. I figured I showed the world after you pushed me along in this to show a different side that I knew of that man. The little nuances. Did you see the Netflix thing the other day? He started talking about somebody stuffed peppers on tape. about the woman stuffed peppers. John loved to give credit. He even said on tape about Tommy Gambino, we're going to brag about this guy. We're going to so much we're going to get him in trouble. He knew his mouth. But if John liked you, John seen good in you, he bragged about it.
You know, there was on the on that special, what I found in there's a I forget the names he said, but he was having one of his John Gotti moments. There's 50 of this guy, 50 of that guy, 100 of this guy, but there's only one motherfucking John Gotti. I think it's him talking on the special. And I'd almost, or you could even use when Victoria was coming out of the courthouse after he was convicted, and she's talking, and she says, "My father is last of the Mohegans. They don't make men like him no more, and they never will." Um, you know, I've studied the entire history from at least 1860 until the end of John Gotti in this country. Every boss of the five families, the whole New York mafia. I've studied gangsters my whole life. I just had an interest in this since I was as young as I can go back in my head. My parents went to it, it passed into me. There is something about John. I want to ask you because you knew him and you knew a lot of guys. You grew up around a lot of guys. What is it about him you think that he just made this? It ain't just because he dressed nice and he walked with a nice a little pep in his step or that. It was more because a lot of guys dress nice. A lot of guys had had a big ego, things like that. To be a boss, you almost have to have a big ego. A lot of guys had flamboyant personality and stuff. But what would you say was about him that he transcended to this level where this new movie this Get Gotti just debuted at #1 out of everything on Netflix. It was #1 on Netflix. Out of every damn thing you can play on Netflix, everyone said stopped and played the Get Gotti. Why is everybody what is it about him that people just feel so gravitated to him?
Well, let me go back to what Vicky had said. Now, I just said that, coming from your family, of course, he's the greatest thing. He's on Mount Rushmore. Maybe only one in certain people's minds. Maybe there's only one Godfather, one Don, one mob boss that's on Mount Rushmore. If that's your family in Montville, somebody you love. There's been a lot of Mohegans that died in prison, that still will die in prison. So again, appreciating where it's coming from, the person about their own father. But there's been a lot of guys that got the death penalty going through back decades. And a lot of guys who died in prison. And there's guys who are going to die in prison. So that last of the Mohegan stuff, that's for family to say. There's a lot of guys that stood up. And they're going out in a bad way. And their families will suffer for it. So those families may take exception to that comment. I get what she's saying. Now, it's the peripheral people outside the blood, what John has built. John built a reputation before anybody ever knew him, before the Paul Castellano hit, within Cosa Nostra, with a lot of people. John had the it factor that people talk about, that it factor, that charisma, that a person walks in a room. The dress is part of it. The way you walk is part of it. If you like girls, you see a girl come in with 6-inch heels, dressed appropriately, her hair nice, makeup perfect, walking with her shoulders back. That's the most stunning person, charismatic person in the room who exudes confidence. John was that. John was a peacock. In mob terms, he stood out. He had that confidence with the people that knew him. And, I always said you could feel John in a room. When he looked at you, when he gave you that vote of confidence by saying something positive to you, you took that home with you. He made sure everybody heard it. He knew how to positive reinforcement, like in business when you have workers, there was that positive reinforcement. And then there was the times where you could be admonished. And there was the times where he would pull you aside and not do that openly. John had everything it took to be a good businessman in that sense. He had that character. It's hard to put your finger on to say what did it. It's a combination of everything. His confidence did it. Look at the statements he said. You'll never meet a guy like me again. That's John. I'll say it all the time. You know, John had that about himself, his confidence. He knew there was no chance he would ever open his mouth to get out of jail. He knew that. He knew, like I told you, somebody was going to shoot him. He'd open his shirt up and he'd take the bullets. He'd stick his chest out. They're going to give him the death penalty by firing squad. That's the kind of guy he was. He took it on, head on, everything in his life. And he took the responsibility right up to the end. But being in his company, for me, I got excited every time I went there. I was happy to go see him. Now Ravenite and all that other stuff showing up, lambs to slaughter mentality. Why is he doing this stuff? Oh, you know, crossed my mind, of course. But once you're there, you walk by, you go, to Jackie or me, what are you doing later? I'm going to be uptown. Meet me uptown. See you in Regine's. I'll see you at the Noise. I'll see you at this place or whatever, St. Regis. You know, that was like, wow, all these guys, you know, he's got his eye on me to be in a different environment where you have to soldier up with him, relaxed, in a circle mentality. And that's what everybody's trying to do that. People started to dress up more than they ever dressed up. People would show up with new ties and they would go by John to have their jackets over, waiting for that compliment from the boss, from John Gotti. And anybody says different don't know him. And the people that say different that did know him are jealous. I'm not going to mention nobody's name here today because this is about John. It's not about anybody else. But they wish they could be John. The following, the Pied Piper. Not of all, of many. That was John.
You know, you being on here, and I'm telling you this, not as your host, not as your friend. I'm telling you this as a guy who, you know, like I had a channel before I met you. I was into this before I met you. I had positions out there since I met you. So I'm saying I know how I've evolved on certain things with the arrival of you being on here. And one of the things that you helped me to see that I didn't know, a lot of people think John just shot up in this respectability or something after he killed Paul and stepped in as the boss. And that's when he became the John that, but then you told me a story and I'm going to ask you about this. Your brother was killed and you were upset and you wasn't going to just lay this one down and just like, and you know, Paul sent word to you and said, listen, tell Michael he has to eat it. Paulie Zach came through Paulie Zach. And Paulie was trying to tell you, yo, Michael, this is the life. If you want to be in this, this is what it is. But you still were mad. And he says, Michael, I'm going to have Jimmy come talk to you. Jimmy Brown, I think it was. And the reason he had Jimmy Brown come and talk to you was because this is an old-time guy, been around a long time, seasoned guy, respected guy, driver for Carlo, top captain in the family. Jimmy comes to you. You don't want to eat it. And Paulie says to you, he looks at you and says, he knows that you're still mad, that word coming from Paul wasn't enough. Word coming from Jimmy Brown, having Jimmy Brown talk to you wasn't enough. Me, your friend who's, you know, grew up with you isn't enough. And he says something to you. I'll let you share that part. But I want you to tell me why he said this to you.
Well, there's two answers to that. There's two phases to that, I should say. He said, and if you could throw Frankie Chico in there also, speaking to me, try to reason with me with all of this at the time and tell me, he's over there with another family. That's their property. You got to understand this. You're not going to be happy with it. I've heard all of that. Keep it in your stomach, maybe one day, but there's the life. So Paulie tells me, you want me to get John to come and talk to you? He knows about it. He says he'll talk to you if you need that. Not threatening. Why? Like I told you, a couple of years later, before that, maybe a year before that, John went around with the committee with the no drug deal and die edict, and it was held at my grandmother's house. It's the first time I met John. First time I ever heard the name, really. And Paulie introduces me to him when he was leaving and says, John Gotti, Michael DiLeonardo proposed and all this other grandfather explains it all to him. And as he's walking away, Paulie Zach, a staunch Sicilian, John was a nappy. Says, see that guy? He's our next boss. This is after Paul just gets the job after Carl, maybe 3 years in, 4 years in. He's seen this guy, young buck, with that charisma, with that ability to lead, those qualities, leadership skills, to take everything on. That's what he said. So that spoke volumes to me. That here's a guy, a skipper from Queens, which Queens was like no man's land to people in Brooklyn. Not to take anything away from those guys, not at all. But they were very viable, as I got to learn later on. But it was always Brooklyn and Manhattan. So, yeah, and I knew at that time when I heard that, and I know Paulie's feelings about John, because we did speak about that conversation later on about John, who he was and what he was, meant a lot. And it was sort of saying to me, John was going to tell me that I had to, think about Cosa Nostra and not think about being a vengeful kid or young man at the time and get yourself killed for no reason, because that's what would have happened. So his name was influential when Paul just became the boss. He was a random boss.
Yeah, and that's because what you said to me is, RJ, John was a superstar before he was a boss. He was a superstar. And that was the example you gave me. If Jimmy Brown can't pull you off the ledge, I'm gonna go get you the one guy that matters the most. Essentially, I'll get John to come talk to you. And that was a way of, but am I correct in saying that was Paulie Zach's way of saying, this is the top guy I can bring to you to talk to you?
You know why also? John was a killer. John had the rep of being a worker. He didn't screw with those guys. Here's a guy that does work, like Frankie the Chico. Right? That was the working crew, the inner circle guys. That says, I'm going to bring you a guy that's serious. Listen to what he has to tell you. And when I heard that, I started to get it. That I knew I had to shut my mouth and eat it. But that was John. That was John's rep way back. And then when the thing with Paul propelled him into the front page, and news built him up so one day he could be taken down. And he earned his right to this drink, and his testimonial we're giving him here today. And there's not too much more I could say. Is I'm toasting to my friend. May he rest in peace. Hopefully he's in a good place. So thank you everybody for being here with RJ and myself. Mikey's here somewhere around here. And we want to say thank you to everybody. Hope you enjoy our product that we put out. RJ works very hard. And much appreciated for the interaction and the way you're building our channel and give you some good information. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jeff, they do drops a question and sends in $10. If John were to eat one meal today, what would it be?
Not sure. That's a good one, Jeff. I'm not sure what he would want. You know what? I'll tell you what he would want. Whatever he was eating, everybody would eat the same. He wouldn't eat no better than anybody else.
Guys, we will be doing another live. I think Sunday. We still planning for Sunday, Michael, on YouTube. Saturday. We're doing 2 lives this week. We're doing a Patreon live and a YouTube live back to back. So I'll make an announcement. We'll either do the YouTube live Saturday or Sunday. I don't know which one. We'll probably do Patreon Saturday, YouTube Sunday. So come back Sunday. We'll answer some questions. Maybe I can get. Hey, Michael, you want to share your review on Get Gotti now, or do you want to do it on Sunday?
We'll do it that. I don't want to take away from why we did this just now.
Fair point. Thank you, guys. Peace and love. We'll see you guys Sunday. Michael, close it out.
God bless. Thank you for being here. Rest in peace, John.